Do you have a fear of public speaking? If you are in business or ministry, public speaking is a skill you need to have. If public speaking is a challenge to you, my guest is here to say you can overcome that fear and excel at it. Or maybe you're already a good speaker and you just want to take your speaking to the next level. We'll do that today as well. Our topic is overcoming the fear of public speaking. Lorraine Ranalli is the author of a book on effective public speaking. It's called Impact. She'll join me on this episode of The Catholic Entrepreneur. Welcome to the Catholic Entrepreneur Podcast. Our sponsor today is Ave Maria University. Discover its free online short courses. The Pursuit of Wisdom courses are taught by some of the best Catholic minds in the country. You were made to pursue wisdom. Learn more at thepursuitofwisdom.org from Ave Maria University. My guest today is Lorraine Ranalli. She's a 35-year broadcast professional, radio disc jockey, corporate communications specialist in the areas of public relations and marketing, but mostly she's known now for her public speaking courses. She's the author of the book, Impact, Deliver Effective, Meaningful, and Memorable Presentations. Lorraine, great to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
I read your book, loved your book. At first, when I saw that there were 200 tips, I thought, man, that's a lot of tips for public speaking. Do I have to remember that much? But then when I started reading them, I thought, well, of course, this is a great tip. So well done. I really enjoyed it a whole
Great.
lot.
Thank you.
How did you evolve into teaching public speaking?
That was part of the whole transition from broadcasting into corporate communications. I had been doing some PR while I was still on the air in Philadelphia. Then I got involved with corporate communications and started, I saw a need for soft skills training, and I kind of fell into that. And also through my own experience with public speaking, I was asked to speak a few times. And speaking before a live audience, as opposed to a mic in a very controlled radio booth, broadcast booth, is so different. So I was nervous and I needed to learn. And so I studied. And in doing so, I found there were a lot of people like me in my field who also needed to do some public speaking for whatever reason and needed a little bit of help. But I started training, started teaching at a college, and I started doing corporate training, and I developed my own program. Again, all while studying and learning and doing a few programs myself to really sharpen those edges.
Yeah, I remember in our pre-interview, you used a word that was interesting to me. You said that you went at it hard because you weren't necessarily a natural-born public speaker.
Definitely did. So a couple of things there. I'm going to take you guys way back. So
okay.
When I was 11 months, my mother said I started talking in complete sentences. Okay. So maybe I was a natural born speaker, but I was a shy kid.
Okay.
And when I had the radio bug in my early teen years, I knew I had to get out of my shyness. So one of my first jobs was at a Roy Rogers. You know why I chose Roy Rogers over McDonald's?
Their chicken?
No. They had a microphone. At the cash register, there used to be a microphone, and you had to call back the orders to the cooks. And I don't know why they had a microphone, but they did. I remember that. And so, it'd be like large cheeseburger, and I'd be shy and look around, 2 orders of fries. Oh my gosh, who's looking at me?
Okay.
But I put myself in that position on purpose. The other thing I used to do as a young teenager, my mid-teens, I would volunteer to read at Mass.
Okay.
Especially during Lent when I was going to daily Mass, because I knew I needed to overcome that fear of speaking in public. And so that's one way of going at it hard. Mm-hmm. I broke through the shyness. I got into radio. Now I'm going into corporate communications and training public speaking, and then being asked to speak in public. I had a book out I was promoting at different occasions to speak in public. So I studied Dale Carnegie. I studied Stephen Lucas. I studied a bunch of different professionals and developed my own method and developed my own course eventually. And I did go at it hard in that respect. The way an athlete would practice, and I got up and I failed quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And I didn't like that. And where in other areas of life, if I failed, I might have given up with the public speaking. I remember driving home from one presentation that I kind of bombed. And I'm on the phone with a colleague of mine. I'm like, I don't know. And he was just like, do it again, just do it again. And I'm like, that's what I need to do, persevere and get over the embarrassment and get up and do it again. And you do.
Okay, so to recalibrate, so you were in broadcast, but being in a booth is different than being out in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You wanted to develop this skill. Take us back years earlier. You even practiced in uncomfortable situations. So your contention would be that, granted, you had a broadcast background, but if you could do it, others could do it.
Absolutely. And I've seen it happen, Matt. I've in my coaching, I've taught for college as an adjunct, 3 different schools. And then I still do corporate training. And I've had professionals in my corporate classes from entry level to executive level. And when it's an even playing field at that point,
that's interesting.
It really is. And it's amazing how some people will just adapt, and it depends on their personality.
For many professionals, it can't be avoided. It's going to enrich your experience. So give me some quick reasons why someone should pay attention to this conversation right now, and why they should, like you, go at it and learn the skill of public speaking.
I think that anybody who improves their public speaking skills improves their confidence level tremendously. Okay. So you look at a business professional at any level. It might be something you don't want to do. I know plenty of professionals who've climbed the corporate ladder and have avoided it at every cost. Okay. But I would caution that doing that is only going to make it difficult, because at some point you're going to get to a level and you're going to have to address a group. You're going to have people working for you or whatnot, and it's going to hold you back if you don't get comfortable with it. So I would say that the 3 benefits are building your confidence, putting you in a position of influence, actually a position of power. When you're on stage, you are in a position of power.
And it doesn't even need to be on stage. Like, I'm picturing my old company we would have small meetings of 10, 12, 15 people where we're hashing things out. And if someone had came in from the staff and made a proposition on something, it does increase their presence in the company and therefore power.
Exactly, and influence. And so I would contend that that's their stage at that particular moment in time, right? In the boardroom where they're standing up, or they have the floor, if you will. And then, so your confidence, it puts you in the position of influence, we'll say. And then the third thing is it affects your bottom line. And whether that's your dollars or your career trajectory, it's going to improve your life.
Has your confidence, even though you were fairly confident because you were doing Philadelphia radio for 20 years, most people would say
more.
You're in the confidence category. Have you seen your focused intentionality and increased mastery of speaking in your own life boost your own confidence? Like, could I send you right now into a corporate setting and you deliver a pretty darn good talk?
I do have the confidence that I could do that. Will I be nervous? Yes. But you know what I did? And this is what I tell my students. You got to turn that nervous. If you don't have a little bit of nervous butterflies, you're actually in more danger, because sometimes your overconfidence can be your Achilles heel. Mm-hmm. So a little bit of nerves, a little bit of butterflies is good. And I tell people, let's turn that into adrenaline. And that's what I would do. If you said, Lorraine, we're going to leave this building, we're going to go to another one, there's going to be a crowd of 1,000 people, and you need to take center stage, talk for an hour, figure it out. You got 5 minutes. First of all, I'd love the challenge. Secondly, I would ask you, how much am I getting paid? No, but I would take that challenge and I would say, okay, you're on. Get into gear. Get it organized. What are you going to do? And I'd be nervous as all heck, but I would embrace that.
Yeah, I'm not sure I would be thrilled about the prospect of doing it, but I think, I can see you stepping up and.
Well, it's almost a game. It's almost one of those mental things that you have to do that, because if you don't, then you're going to bomb. And think about what is it going to look like at the end if you bomb? You might get people's empathy. Oh, well, she didn't know and she just came. But that's not what I want. I don't want pity at the end of the day. I want people to leave there feeling good, like, oh, that was worth my time. I just spent an hour and I got something out of it.
Throughout our time here, I want to bring it down multiple times to not the person who on 10 minutes notice is going to be speaking in front of 1,000 people. Right. And again, maybe that was my anecdote. But to the person who just has to deliver a presentation at work in front of 10 people. Mm-hmm. So first off, is there a shortcut, do you think, to learning how to be a public speaker, or does it require the intentionality that you chose to do 20 years ago?
I don't think there are any shortcuts. per se, depending on how you describe shortcuts. Now, could it be quicker for some people to master it to some degree than for others? Sure. Like anything else, it's what you put into it. So I would say that if you are intentional, now your intentionality may be different than mine. It's going to look a little different because it depends on your needs, your situation, what speaking engagement you're preparing for, and that sort of thing.
I know of a young kid who works with one of my sons who just chose, like in his 9th grade year at a nearby Malvern high school, that he liked being in plays. And he's a popular athlete and everything, but he chose to go in that direction, and he probably took a leap of faith because I'm not sure he was necessarily an outgoing kid in his youth. And then by doing that play, he now does all the plays. And so I almost wonder, Lorraine, whether there could be a forced shortcut by one just choosing to thrust themselves into a difficult or public speaking situation.
If you want to call, again, it depends on how you define shortcut. You do have to thrust yourself into a situation where you're speaking in public because you only get better with practice. You could study all day long, but it's not like mathematics where you're studying and you learn the formulas and you memorize them and then you can ace it, right? Or accounting or anything like that, or history test even. This is different, I think, because it requires, you can think about it, and I am a big proponent of visualization. It's one of the things I say to do before the night before your big presentation, before the board or whatever the situation is.
No, I can see this.
Visualize. I'll say you've prepared it, you've practiced it. Now lay in bed and visualize success every point of the way, from greeting people at the door to saying goodbye at the end.
Because that you've already lived the experience then once if you do that.
Exactly. But you haven't really lived the experience until you do it. And, because communication is, communication is, I love it because there's a science to it and there's an art to it. And the science is something that's tangible. You can study formulas, you can study the greats, you can watch videos. I guess, I don't know if it's like playing a sport because I'm not very athletic, but until you go out and do it, and that curveball came from the left and not the right like you anticipated or whatever the situation is, it's going to be different every time. So you have to be able to understand how to go with the flow. Okay,
so bringing it down to the average person watching who's going to be speaking in front of 5 to 10 people, what would be the step-by-step process of you taking someone who's nervous to being able to deliver an effective speech?
Okay, so first we would address the nervousness. What are the 2 root causes of nerves? And they are that series of internal negative comments that we seem to tell ourselves all the time. I called it a negative chatterbox inside our head.
Okay.
We need to turn that into a positive chatterbox. So if you know that the stage has 3 steps and you're sitting there and all you're thinking about is, I'm going to trip up those steps, I would say, no, tell yourself that you're going to be graceful and like Tinkerbell, you're going to fly up those steps and take to the stage.
Okay.
Think in the positive. There's that law of attraction. We will attract to us what we keep thinking about. So think about it in the positive. Then the other thing is, the other source of nerves generally is the sense of hyper responsibility. Now, granted, when you're on stage, you're in a position of power. You're in a position to influence, which we spoke about. But you are not responsible for everything going on with the audience, So the person that didn't get any sleep because they were up feeding a colicky baby all night, or the construction outside, you're not responsible for any of that. So don't take that on. Don't apologize for it. So we'll address and we'll go through exercises about dealing with nerves. The extent of our nervousness, I think, is very much related to our level of insecurity. And I maintain that every human being, just by our human nature, is insecure to some level. So we'll address that. I mentioned already that a little bit of nerves are good because you could turn those butterflies into adrenaline. Then we'll talk about the next thing, which also will help quell your nerves, and that's organizing your presentation.
So you said the root causes of nerves are 2 things. The internal voices in our head that are negative, and then a sense of over-responsibility that everything going on
you're responsible for, yeah.
Okay, so now move us into...
So then then we'll start with organizing your presentation. This is the content. When I talk about content delivery and practice or preparation. So the content, what is your topic? What's your overarching purpose? Are you going to try to persuade the audience about something? Are you simply there to educate or inform the audience? Or are you there as a motivational speaker?
So you said three things: content, delivery, and practice.
And we're talking about content first.
Okay. So within content, organizing, and then you said three phrases.
Generally, and generally we're doing all three, all right? But sometimes when we're, in a business situation, we're trying to sell an idea. We're trying to sell a product. That would be the persuasive speech. Always we're educating or informing, because you can't sell if you're not informing. And I'll also say you can't inform if you're not selling at least yourself. So I've had multiple people, even in marketing, say to me, "Oh, I'm not in sales." Yeah, you are. We're all in sales because we're all selling ourselves, right?
Sure.
So you're always doing a little bit of all three, but generally you have an overarching purpose to your presentation. You're either a motivational speaker, you're persuading, or you're informing.
Okay.
And I just took them out of order. It's okay. Once you have a general idea, let's say you're informing, and let's say your topic is coffee, something. Now that's a very broad topic. Then you want to get to your specific purpose. And maybe for this audience, your purpose is to inform the audience about sourcing coffee beans from Colombia.
Okay.
I don't know, just pull that out of a hat, right? Now you're getting somewhere. Now you can really organize your speech because it's very specific, and you know what you need to tell this audience about these Colombian beans and why they're so much better than the ones from, I don't know, Brazil, right? So then you go and you do your research and you have your facts and you have your key points, and you're organizing all this first. And by the way, Matt, this is where I begin the preparation, the speech preparation, the messaging, from the very body of your speech. Part of my whole program is learning how to organize the speech into three main parts: an open, a body, and a close. Start with the body, the specific purpose. What is it that you need to get across? How much is the audience going to remember? Don't give them too much information, because generally we can retain about 3 key points.
Okay.
And then support those points with really good evidence, whether it's data, statistics, hypothetical examples, or real stories,
Sure. Okay. So we did the nerves issue. Then you move into content.
And organizing.
Organizing and content, then delivery, then practice. So within content, you focused on getting your key messages first. So take it from there.
So then once you know the body of your presentation, then you go back and you put the icing on it. Then you start, okay, how am I going to open this up? And there's 3 things you generally want to...
Okay, so do the content first, then
go to the open. Go do the body first, and then go to the open. And in the open, there's 3 things that you want to accomplish. You want to get the audience's attention.
Okay.
You want to tell them what the topic is. And then you want to tell them why it's important to them, what the value prop is, because everybody's listening to the same radio station, whether it's a one-on-one conversation or you're on stage.
Sure.
Everybody's tuned to WIIFM. What's in it for me?
Okay.
We're all tuned to that, right?
Okay.
And if somebody begins talking and you don't see that you're going to get anything out of it, you start to think about the rest of your day.
So let me, you get the body first. Once you get the body, then you move to your opening. Your opening had 3 parts to it. Get their attention. The third one was deliver a value prop. And the second one
is to basically reveal your topic.
Why you're there.
Yeah.
Get their attention, what the topic is, and then the self-serving benefit.
Now, while you're doing all that in the
ahead.
open, you also need to build your credibility.
Okay.
And if you do it artfully, you're going to appear credible. But maybe...
What would be an example of forming your credibility?
LeBron James comes to talk to your group about basketball.
Okay.
All you need to know is he's LeBron James. You don't need any credibility.
Okay. What about Mrs. Smith, though,
who
hasn't done any presentations at work, and there's 5 to 10 people in front of her, and she's got to sell a monthly report to them?
She's going to have to convince them that she's the expert on this.
Okay.
Mrs. Smith comes to talk about basketball. She better tell me what her credentials are to speak about. Now, whoever's introducing her may do that, which is great, but she needs to cleverly weave that into her open as well. So now I'm tuned in.
Okay.
Now I have a reason to want to buy what you're saying.
It might just be a casual line or so, or if someone else didn't do
it shouldn't be anything more than a single line.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have the opening. The body was already established. I presume now you're going to take me to the end, and we're in the content section, and then we're going to move to content. Delivery and then practice. Go ahead.
The one area that I think people really neglect is the close, what I call the close. And just like I said, the open is the icing. The close is the after dinner mint. It's the soup to nuts. It's the nuts. You can't forget to organize that part of your presentation, because this is the lasting impression that you'll make.
Okay, so what do you do?
If you've done a very artful job and grabbed their attention, kept them engaged during the body, you don't want it to fall apart at the end. And
Sure.
I've seen this happen with professionals. What you need to do is think, how am I going to indicate to the audience that we're wrapping up now? So you're going to summarize, and you can do it again in one sentence. I just told you this, this, and this about the coffee beans from Colombia. Mm-hmm. And then maybe this is where you take questions. If you're not taking them throughout, or if you have time, I have X amount of minutes for questions. And by the way, all this is in the book, on the section, on the chapter on closing. You set the frame, X amount of minutes for questions and answers, and then you take questions. You have a spare question all ready to go. And that question that you're bringing, I call it a spare question, because in case, after 2 seconds of who has the first question, if no hands go up, a question I'm often asked is. And what you're doing is you're framing a question that's going to help you, hammer out your main takeaway.
Is there an argument to be made to close out your talk in the manner that you want, with some tight wrap up that makes the point from earlier, and not doing questions?
Oh, absolutely. Depends. I'm just saying, if you're taking, you don't have to take questions, and it depends on the situation. It depends on the venue, depends on the time frame, the audience. There may be situations where you're not taking questions and answers, but the last thing that you want to do is kind of a mirror image of what you did at the start. In the beginning, I said get their attention. At the end, get their attention with a lasting statement, one final statement. So you're moving into the close with a kind of a little summary, a sentence or two, and maybe you're doing questions and answers, maybe you're not, then move right into your final close. And it's just a nice, clever statement. Could be a quote, could be a fact.
So content, delivery, and practice. So content, you work on the body first, you then opening, then close, and then, so now we're going into delivery. What do you mean delivery?
So when we talk about your delivery is, your whole persona on stage, whatever that stage looks like, whether it's sitting at a boardroom table, standing in the boardroom, standing on a stage with, a large audience, whatever it may be. How are you going to come across? What is the body language that you're using? How is your voice coming across? I would advocate vocal variety. So this is something
Vocal variety means what?
Vocal variety is your tone, your pace, where you take pauses, the speed, your volume, all of those things. You want to mix it up. When you're before a live audience, even on a video conference, you want to mix up the variety in your voice, different tones. And like your body language, it needs to be congruent with what you're saying. So my favorite example, and for those listening, they're not going to see this, but if I walk into a room with my arms crossed and no smile on my face, and I say, I am so excited to be here.
Sure.
Are you buying it?
Sure.
Of course you're not.
Sure.
But if I put my arms out kind of open and I smile and my voice gets a little bit, my pitch goes a little up and maybe it's a little fast, I'm like, I am so excited to be here. You believe me.
Well, even when you just did that right now, I couldn't help but
smile,
react to that. So
that's something else we work on, and that's just a matter of practicing. You can read about it, but until you practice it, and I have a bunch of exercises that we do in my programs for this.
As soon as you started speaking about delivery, my mind was brought back to the book. I remember I was reading it on the beach, and I was circling a lot of things, a lot of good tips. So we're going to get into practice in just a minute, but one thing you just triggered is there were a lot of tips connected with delivery in here that I thought were very good. And someone might be listening right now and thinking, well, aren't you being manipulative? And no, I think there are all aspects of life, whether it's sports or whatever, when you can operate at a higher precision, you make it easier for everyone.
Absolutely.
And if you learned how to maybe elicit certain feelings in your presentation through your body language or your tone or whatever, you're doing them a favor, perhaps.
Matt, when we're sitting in an audience, no matter what the occasion is, it could be the most serious thing. I'm sorry to say this, but we all kind of want to be entertained a little bit. We really do. We may not admit it. Oh, no, I'm here because this is a serious subject. I'm going to learn about the autonomy of or the anatomy of whatever it is. You still, as our human nature, you'll still drift away if that person's not engaging you.
Okay, well, but let me clarify, because this is a theme that I think Catholicism has in particular brilliantly. Even if it's not, quote, entertaining, it needs to be congruent. It needs to be symmetric. You've heard this phrase, the transcendentals: truth, goodness, beauty, oneness. Those are true because they're true and they're beautiful in themselves. A presenter who is skilled at an unconscious level, you just receive that person better. So it doesn't need to be entertaining. It just needs to be symmetric, congruent.
Emotional. Maybe entertaining is not quite the right word. There needs to be some kind of engagement. And to engage, you have to reach people on an emotional level. So when you mention the Catholicism, I think beauty right away. And if what you're saying at the pulpit is beautiful and true and real, you've got I may not be entertained, but I'm interested.
So I'm making a different point, though. I'm saying if something is symmetric, like a circle, there's something beautiful about a circle in and of itself, and a presenter who is skilled at presenting versus jerky or whatever the case may be.
Sure.
At an unconscious level, it's congruent, it's symmetric, it's almost like a transcendental.
So when you're talking about practicing delivery, and I do make these tips in when we talk about body language, let's say, and you use the word congruent, and I use that a lot as well. So whatever facial expressions, body language you're using, whatever vocal variety you're using, needs to be congruent with what you're saying, because your audience, they are visual learners. Some of them are auditory. Some of them are kinesthetic. So you need to hit all those different types of learners.
So we're going to move in a little bit to practice, but I want to take a moment to break for our sponsor and hear a very, very good message from Ave Maria University.
You were made to pursue wisdom. Today, on this screen, you can now be guided by the top Catholic minds in the nation, our faculty at Ave Maria University. The wisdom that was once only for our students is now at your fingertips to help you live a more inspired, meaningful, and joyful life. It's your turn. Invite God to inspire and transform your life through the pursuit of wisdom.
Okay, so welcome back, Lorraine. Great to be with you. Lorraine Ranalli, author of Impact. I'll talk about the book in just a minute. So in your courses and one-on-one instruction you do with people, you break things down into 3 parts: content, delivery, and practice. Content, you tell people to get the heart of the message first, then you work on the opening and then closing. And then delivery is where various tips, body language, voice, intonation, maybe pacing back and forth. Yeah. So now we're at the third. Practice. So what are you saying with practice?
We all need practice. I don't care what Alan Iverson says. So. Practice is putting everything you've learned into play. And well, when we do a program with many participants, 10 or more, we all have a chance to practice. When I'm doing a workshop, I get everybody up as much as possible. Ooh. I know, but it's the only way, right? Okay. If you're not doing it, you're not learning.
I'm nervous for it. I just exhaled.
I know. I
was nervous for them.
And so there's always a method to the madness. And the beautiful thing, and I've seen this over and over again, when I do these workshops, generally I'll cap it at about 15 people because everybody needs to get up and speak, and it can get long if you have a lot of people. Okay. And I'll make everybody's talk at the very beginning. I'll break the ice with it. We'll get up and do 30 seconds and I'll give them a topic, go. And people are like, some people are funny, the awkwardness. Then we evaluate each other and we build such a camaraderie, whether it's a 4-hour workshop, an 8-hour workshop, or a 3-credit college course meeting over 15 weeks. We build some camaraderie because what happens is we're all kind of on the same playing field when we start. We're a little nervous. Everybody's at a different level with their speaking experience, but we're practicing every time we meet or every couple of minutes if it's a, 1-day workshop. And there's a trust that's automatically built because we're kind of all being vulnerable at the same time. But I create an environment that everybody feels comfortable to do that. Again, some people get to that comfort level a little quicker than others. I talked about, I don't remember if it was off air or not, but, I've literally talked people off the ledge. I had a young woman run out the room on me now, an adult college student. She started out because we all knew she was nervous. We got to the point in the semester with a big presentation, and she had prepared, and, we work on it ahead of time. Then it was her time to present. She got up, and the first minute was strong, and I thought, okay, she's going to do it. I was nervous for her because I knew how much she had more anxiety than anybody had ever seen, and I'd seen a lot of anxiety.
Yeah.
And something tripped her up mentally, and she just stopped. She looked up, and she literally darted out the room.
Okay.
And I thought, oh boy, what do I do now? So I took a deep breath. I said to the class, hang on, okay? Everybody, I went down the hall, and there she was down the end of the hall, sitting on a windowsill, and I talked her off I literally talked her off that window ledge, and she wasn't jumping, God forbid. But I said, look, you've already come so far. Just get in there and finish it up. Everybody's eager to hear what you have to say.
Oh, that's great.
And so we did, and did she do a perfect speech? Heck no. But she did it. And it was the first formal speech of the semester. Well, there's 4 in my semester, so she had to do 3 more, and each one got better and better. She went from 0 to, I think she ended up with a B in the class or something like that. So I've seen that.
So, I don't know, 20 years ago, I was doing marriage prep every weekend, for a certain diocese, delivering the same material every weekend. And it dawned on me that my confidence came by the fact that I knew the material. So I took that as a principle that the better I knew the material, the more confident I was. And I almost then maybe, carried that with me for the next X number of years. So I'd like your opinion on the proposition, because I shared this with one of my kids who had to give a talk in high school, and he drilled it over and over again. And he normally would not have gotten up there, but because he got confident on the topic, it covered.
Well, the more you do it, the more confident across the board. When it comes to choosing a topic, and we may have spoken about this off air, there's 2 criteria, and that is a topic that you're an expert at, or one about which you are very passionate. If you have those 2 as your criteria for your topic choice when given the chance, now you may be in a work situation where you don't get to choose your favorite topic or something you're passionate about. You have to do a little research. I would tell you then to get passionate about it. Find some way to develop passion for that topic, because if you have that kind of enthusiasm, as you see, enthusiasm is contagious, and you'll be more endearing with the audience. And just as you said, sure, the more you do it, the better and the more confident. The better at it you're going to be, the more confident you're going to be.
Okay, so I'm putting you on the spot here because I'm asking you to recall your book by memory. Just random speaking tips that you've learned over the years. And if I think of one, while you're thinking, I'll throw it back out.
So tip number 1, practice.
Okay.
Develop your, and I also, another tip, I wouldn't type out a speech to read. There are some occasions where that might be necessary. You're giving a keynote and thanking somebody or whatever. There's plenty of scenarios for that. But most people don't want to be read to. So if you have a topic that you are an authority on, or you're so passionate about, and you know it like the back of your hand, speak extemporaneously. Have a few notes. Have what I call an outline or a roadmap, I like to call. And why do I call it a roadmap? Because your presentation is a journey. You're taking your audience from beginning to end. There are stops along the way. It needs to be clear from point A to point B. So have that roadmap. And if you need to print it out on a sheet of paper or some index cards, go old school. I would always have something physical. Here's another tip, don't rely on your electronic devices. Do not rely on your phone.
Sure.
Do not for your notes, because it could die on you. Anything could happen.
So building on that, I distinctly remember having 2 and 3 copies in different locations.
That's a good
I must
point.
have had a fear of not having the notes in front of me. Okay, what other random tips?
And to that point, if you have several pages, number them,
Yeah,
because
I've
when
done
they
this
fall
before.
and you have to pick them up.
No, in fact, I was numbering things earlier today, so I get it.
Put the numbers on all 4 corners of the pages, So other tips would be, we didn't talk about this yet at all, but I'm not a big fan of using PowerPoint. Now, there are some presentations that require it. If you must use it, that's the last thing that you want to prepare. As you're putting your content together, make it all about the content. Your PowerPoint or any visual aid is just that. It's to aid, enhance what you're saying. Because again, your audience is comprised of different types of learners.
Okay, so let me push back on that because one, you're engaging two senses by talking and then showing. And I got to tell you, Lorraine, there's been 50, 100 times when the PowerPoint were my note cards. They were the train tracks. They were the trigger words.
Yeah.
And they actually pulled me off the pieces of paper in front of me.
That's
so by
fine.
default, it became the script.
Mnemonic device. I get that, but if you rely on it, that's where
And
the
what
problem.
do you mean rely? What do you mean?
Well, if you don't practice enough, if you don't have the cards in case the projector
Or
breaks
you're
down,
slavishly reading from it.
Yeah, or nobody. Again, if you have so much printed on your PowerPoint
Sure.
that you're not needed, you're boring your audience.
Okay.
You're the presenter, not that. I'm not opposed to it. When we have visual aids just for the sake of it, and they really don't aid, they don't enhance,
Sure.
they don't add it, then you don't need them.
I've learned that I need water
Oh,
up there
yeah.
on occasion,
Oh, always.
just for the parched.
Definitely have some water because you will get, if you're the slightest bit nervous, dry mouth is a symptom of that
Sure.
nervousness.
Do you prepare for a heckler? Like, do you have a kind of
So
ready-made something?
I'm glad you said that because that's a lot of people's fears that they bring up. What if the audience knows more than I do? And I say, well, you know what? Count on that there will be somebody in the audience that knows more about the subject than you do.
Okay.
But you're presenting it in a way that's different from how they'll present it.
Okay.
Now, what if somebody heckles? What if they stand up? Generally, the audience doesn't like a heckler.
Okay.
Once might be funny, be good-natured, let it roll off. Twice might start to don't let them get under your skin. Don't take anything personally.
So I probably shouldn't have gone down that
No,
rabbit hole because
it's a good rabbit hole.
And I remember, I think, reading something about that.
Invite them into your presentation.
Sure.
They'll either quiet down or maybe they'll enhance it.
And yeah, my only statement was that it's probably rarely going to
It's
happen.
very rare.
So,
It's very rare. And it's also very rare. And here's another tip for you.
Sure.
Whenever you have the opportunity, whether it's a small crowd, large crowd, get there before everybody and greet them as they come in. Then they're already kind of
like that.
indebted to you because you made contact with them. And make eye contact with the friendliest faces in the audience. Try not to look, especially if you're in a large auditorium, don't look over the crowd. Look at different individuals' eyes. Get the most friendliest faces because those friendly faces will encourage you.
yeah, no, I can see that. I think
If
I've
there's a
experienced
miserable
it.
looking person, don't look at them. You don't know what's going on in their world. It's nothing to do with you.
So one more time for those who have nerves, your opening comments, lessons, teaching to them would be what?
Understand the source of the nerves and build habits to overcome that. Know that you're not going to be. You don't want to get rid of them totally. A little bit of nervousness is good. It keeps us humble. And those butterflies can be turned into adrenaline. But it's up to you to work on that. And the more you do it, the better.
Very good. So content delivery practice, segments within each. So I just want to, Lorraine was very gracious. So I have a good number of these to give away to you for free. Thanks to Lorraine. Thank you for that. So get on our email list, send a note that you'd like to get a copy of Impact, and we will send a free copy of this out to you. So again, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's much that we could discuss, but great introduction to speaking, and I can see people listening and saying, yeah, no, I can overcome those fears. So,
And contact me if you'd like me to come in and do a
yeah,
workshop for you or your group.
We'll have your contact information in the show notes. So Lorraine, thanks. Great
Thank
to be
you.
with you again. Thank you to Lorraine Ranalli, the author of the book Impact. We are going to be giving this book away for free, thanks to a gift from Lorraine to all of you. Simply send us an email, request the book, and we will send it out to you. Remember to subscribe to the Catholic Entrepreneur Podcast. Hit the bell, notification, whatever it is on whatever platform you are using. Also, we're giving away as a free gift a few of these each month. Just get on our email list, and we're going to randomly select a few names. Thank you again for being with us. We will see you on the next episode of the Catholic Entrepreneur Podcast.